If you're planning to buy a house in Georgia and move here from another state, especially from another part of the country, there are a few things that may surprise you and that you need to know when looking for your Georgia home. Hi, I'm Tim Trevathan with Tim Trevathan Homes and Keller Williams Realty, and I'm a realtor here in the North Metro Atlanta area, and I've helped clients from all over the country relocate to Georgia. If you're moving to the area, I'd love to talk to you. Whether it's a call, text, email, however you want to get a hold of me, I'd be happy to help your dreams come true with finding the next home for you. If you are moving here from a neighboring state such as Alabama or Tennessee, there won't be much about buying a home here that surprises you. But if you're moving here from Florida, even though it is a neighboring state, if you've never lived here before, there will be some things that will surprise you about homes in Georgia compared to homes in Florida. If you're moving here from another part of the country, there will definitely be some differences and things that you'll need to know before buying a house in Georgia. First, homes in Georgia have air conditioning. It is a non-negotiable here, and you may be surprised just how much of the year you run your air conditioner. It is very normal to run it well into October and then switch from heat back to air conditioner in April. In some parts of the country, central air conditioning is not the normal, and if a home does have air conditioning, it may be a window unit in the bedroom. That just won't cut it here in hot, humid Georgia. There are a few weeks each spring and fall where the weather is beautiful and the temperatures almost beg you to open your window at night to feel the breeze. But that's a bad idea because those times of year come with heavy pollen, particularly in the spring, when yellow pine pollen coats everything. If you don't suffer from seasonal allergies, you may be able to get away with opening your windows some evenings during the fall, but not in the spring unless you want yellow dust flying around your house. Along the same lines, heat in Georgia homes uses the same vents that the air conditioning does, and the unit is typically in the attic and sometimes in the crawl space in older homes. We don't have baseboard heaters or radiators and no boilers in the basement. Many homes do have a fireplace, but if they are used at all, it is mostly for ambiance a handful of times a year, such as during the holidays. You'll also find that a lot of people here don't even know how to use their fireplace. That is how rarely most people here in Georgia use them. In fact, I can give you a good example of a client who bought a house from Brooklyn, New York in Swanee, Georgia, and the previous homeowner that sold the house to my client had lived there for 8 years and did not use the fireplace even once. How do I know this? We all found out because during the inspection, we're trying to find the gas valve that's connected to the gas to light the fireplace up. Well, we find out that the gas valve was behind the drywall and that the builder forgot to put a little access panel to allow us to access the gas valve. So we found out that the gas valve was needed to be accessed when the homeowner had lived there for 8 years and didn't know because they never used it. It just doesn't get cold enough for fireplaces to serve any real functional purpose. Central heating and air conditioning is standard in Georgia homes. It doesn't come cheaply either. Earlier this year, finance website Wallet Hub reported Georgia has the 4th highest average monthly electricity cost in the entire country, averaging $154 a month. Good news, the average heating oil bill is $0 a month, so keep that in mind if you're moving here from up north. Georgia Power, one of the leading electricity providers in the state, charges a rate that is actually 14% below the national average. So, it's not that electricity itself is expensive in Georgia, it is that we use a lot of it during the warm months, which is most of the year. For a 1,700 square foot home, expect to pay about $1,380 a year in electricity, or $115 a month, and $2,160 a year, or $180 a month for a 2,700 square foot home. Now, you can expect that number to go up in the summer, particularly in July and August when it tends to be the hottest, and to likely go down in the winter. Second, no special kinds of insurance are required, at least in most places. Here in Georgia, thankfully, we don't really experience situations like hurricanes or earthquakes that could warrant special insurance coverage. Now, I'm up in the Atlanta area and don't work down on the coast, so there may be some low-lying pockets there where flood insurance is advisable. But for the most part, flooding thankfully isn't common at all in Georgia, and flood insurance isn't widely recommended. In fact, being in the business for 7+ years here in Georgia, out of all my clients on the buyer side who bought houses and needed insurance policies for their houses, only one client was required to get flood insurance. The same goes for hurricane insurance like you may have in Florida, or earthquake coverage like you may have added on in California. But if you have questions about what is recommended, or really any question about the specifics of buying a home in Georgia, those are great questions that you can ask in the comments below, or reach out to me personally and I'd be happy to talk you through them. Out of curiosity, I hopped on Google to see what someone moving from elsewhere would find if they were looking for information about buying homes in Georgia. 2 generally reputable nationwide websites talked about hurricane insurance being a really good idea in Georgia because it is close to the ocean. That's a good example of why it is important to have a local resource like me to ask those questions instead of relying on the internet. Reality is we have only 120 miles of coastland. Hurricane-related damage is not common here, and very, very few people have or even potentially need hurricane insurance. So, how much will homeowners insurance cost you? That's a great question. For a 1,700 square foot home, you can expect to pay about $750 a year, while a 3,100 square foot home will cost you about $1,800 a year. Now, your credit score does come into play, so those numbers may go up depending on your credit score. Home age also affects your insurance bill. Newer homes are cheaper to insure than older ones. That same 3,100 square foot home that I just said would cost about $1,800 a year to insure, if it was brand new construction, that number would drop to roughly $800 for the year. Third, basements are common and they aren't scary if you're moving here from Florida or another coastal area. The homes you're used to don't have basements because the water table is low. The same is true of coastal Georgia, but in most of the state, basements are very popular. Now, if you're moving here from New England, you may picture basements as dark, damp, and dingy. For the most part, that is not true at all of Georgia basements. Homes here with basements almost always have daylight basements or walkout basements, meaning one side of the basement has normal sized windows and a door to the outside. We don't really use the term terrace too much here in Georgia, but our basements are basically synonymous with what those of you, especially from New York and New Jersey, may call terraces. I'm aware that to some of you, basements and terraces may be two very different things. So when you're looking at listings of homes down here in Georgia and see the home has a finished basement, I want you to picture it more like a terrace than how you would typically picture a basement. Some basements are unfinished, meaning there are studs and potentially plumbing roughed in, but even these basements aren't creepy and are more terraced than damp New England basements. If you buy a home with a finished basement, expect it to pretty much feel like any other finished area of your home. If you buy a home without a basement, if it is built before 1990, there's a good chance it is on a crawl space. If it's built after the 1990s, there's a good chance it is on a slab. If you're coming from part of the country with cold winters, a slab foundation may sound odd as slabs aren't common in some cold weather areas. Here, our frost line is only 12 inches, so it is very easy to build a solid home on a slab foundation. Fourth, Georgia is a buyer beware state. You may also hear or see the Latin term caveat emptor used. What this means is that here in Georgia, sellers are not required to disclose to buyers anything that would be discovered upon a reasonable inspection of the property. Meaning, if the upstairs shower is leaky and there are water marks on the ceiling beneath, the seller doesn't have to disclose the leaky shower. It is incumbent on you, the buyer, to either ask the seller about the watermarks, and the state does not say the seller would need to answer honestly, or have an inspection that would note the concern for a leak. If you neither ask the seller nor have an inspection, the state says you can't sue the seller for not disclosing the leak, since a reasonable inspection would have found the leaky shower. Basically, if an issue would most likely have been found on inspection and you opted to have an inspection or to ask the seller direct questions about the property, the state says the seller is not at fault for any issues that arise. Another pro tip to be aware of is if you're buying a house in Georgia and you're under contract, you schedule the inspection and do it, and then on the report it has a whole list of things that need to be repaired that are not previously disclosed in the property disclosure that the seller normally provides prior to signing a contract. Then if for whatever reason the contract falls through because you guys don't agree on negotiation with a credit or something related to repairing those things that were revealed in the report, then when you back out, that seller now has to disclose those things that were found in the inspection report in their property disclosure to the next buyer. Also, Georgia considers it the buyer's job to research your potential neighborhood and surrounding area. Bottom line, get a home inspection, hop on Google Maps, and take a good look at your potential neighborhood and surrounding area to make sure you aren't near anything you don't want to be near. It takes some time and effort, but the state also considers it the buyer's job to make sure you aren't surprised by road widening or that the beautiful pasture across the street being turned into a neighborhood soon after you move in. We've been in a crazy real estate market recently, and for a while, many buyers are willing to do anything to get into a home. It is important to know that here in Georgia, you can run a significant risk if you opt to skip a due diligence period, aka home inspection period. The courts will not be on your side if issues arise after closing that would have been found upon a close inspection of the home and area. Good news is that when the seller's market is over, or at least now it's less of a seller's market, a lot of due diligence periods with 7 or more days of inspection time are now the acceptable norm. Lastly, property taxes in Georgia. Property taxes average about 0.91%, which is a lot cheaper than in some states where property taxes can be as much as 10% of your home's value. Of course, what the seller has historically paid may not be exactly what you will pay because property taxes tend to increase as home values rise. And if you are purchasing your home from a senior but are not a senior yourself, you can expect to pay more than the seller has been paying. Property tax records are public information, and looking at what the seller has been paying will give you a ballpark idea of what you can expect to pay. I'll wrap up this video by saying, welcome to Georgia. I wish you all the best in your move, and please don't hesitate to give me a call, text, email, reach out to me on my website, however you want to get a hold of me, so that I can help you in making your dream come true with owning a home and moving here to Georgia. Don't forget to subscribe. See you on the next video.